Say the prayer. हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है। इसी में हमारा आत्म विकास समाया हुआ है। वै मे सर्वं ओम ओम ओम। आत्मनि मे त्वं ओम ओम ओम। स्मारय स्मारय ओम ओम ओम। चित्तं शामय शामय ओम। स्मराणि सोऽहं ओम ओम ओम। शान्तं चिन्मयम् ओम माम् ओम। तटस्थं केवलम् ओम ओम ओम। स्मराणि शुद्धम् ओम माम् ओम। So today we will be doing two sutras. Both are related to pranas. So that's why we are taking them together. In last sutra, we saw how the chitta can become free from body and chitta can enter another person's body also. Now this sutra is again talking about another siddhi which is coming as a result of mastery over the pranas. Now prana is a very big concept in Indian thinking. You know, the entire pranayam techniques, they are all connected to this idea of prana, the concept of prana. So it's a very large concept and very deep study is required to really talk about prana. Because since ancient times in many of the scriptures, prana has been mentioned. And particularly in one of the Upanishad, prana is equal, even somehow equated to the Purusha. That is the importance given to prana. And later on, we find that prana is an energy which is all over in universe. And whatever is there in the form of energy in the universe, all that is prana, which is similar to the concept of Sankhya, of Rajas. Rajas is element, Rajas is the guna which is connected. So every kind of energy which we see in the universe is prana. Many years back, almost now 35 years back, somewhere in 1990, doctor used to take regular meetings with the sadhakas. So nearly more than 40-45 sadhakas used to attend. And a different kind of projects were given to sadhakas to work on. So somewhere in 1990, we were given a project to work on the pranas. So that time we did some work, and that time so many points became clear with discussion we had with Dr. Jaydev. So the prana, which is at the universal level, we can't talk much about it because we don't have any understanding of it. We don't have any control over it. So there's no point in talking about it. Science is talking about it like everything is energy. So physics will say this entire universe is nothing but electromagnetic spectrum, which is nothing but pure energy. So according to physics, this entire universe is nothing but energy. Now that is what is really prana. But at the universal level, all kinds of energies we see. Talking in terms of physics, we see magnetic energy, electric energy, the forces of gravity, so many kinds of energies we see. And they are all manifestation of universal energy. So we cannot really fully understand it, master it. But then as an individual, we have to understand that this energy is also working in our body. This energy is also working in our mind. So can we have some access to this energy, or this energy is depleted without our knowledge? So Dr. Jaydev used to say that ordinary individual is supplied with a bit of energy every day he gets up, and then he spends the energy indiscriminately without any consideration of what is happening. He indiscriminately uses it. And by the end of the day, he's tired, and the cycle goes on. So this is one way one can live life where he is totally unmindful of the energy or prana within. And there's another way, which way of yogis, where they were very mindful of what kind of energies are there in the body, how they function. So from the body perspective, everything is energy only, and that energy was known as Adya Prana, Adya Prana, the original prana. And when it functions in human body, it takes 5 major forms. Which are those 5 major forms? It takes the form of Udana, Prana, Udana, Apana, Samana, and Vyana. These are the 5. There are minor variation, categories also, or types also, but major 5 pranas are considered. So prana, Udana, Apana, Samana, and Vyana. These are the 5 energies which are there. And today's sutra, 2 sutras are talking about 2 kinds of energy, 2 kinds of pranas. That is Udana and Samana. I had posed this question to Dr. Jaydev also. Why only 2 are mentioned? And then some discussion took place. Maybe the way we can understand Udana and Samana, same way we cannot understand about Prana, Vyana, and Apana. So perhaps that is why Patanjali has given only 2 about Udana and Samana. So these 2 sutras are talking about having a mastery over Udana and Samana. And the sutra reads, sorry, today also my throat is a little bad and coughing is there, so you'll have to bear with me. So Sutra 39 reads, Udana Jaya Jalapanka Kantaka Dishwa Utsanga Utkrantisya. Udana Jaya Jalapanka Kantaka Dishwa Sanga Utkrantisya. What does it mean? It means उदान के जैसे जल, पंख तथा कांटों आदि से संपर्क नहीं होता और स्वेच्छा से उत्क्रांति भी सिद्ध होती है. We'll try to understand what they mean by it. And if we see the English translation of this sutra, by conquering the vital force called Udana, the chance of immersion in water or mud or entanglement in the thorns is avoided, and exit from the body at will is assured. So in simple words, what it means is when the Udana is mastered, then person's body becomes light, and at his will, he doesn't come into contact with water, with mud, or with the thorns. So even when he's walking in the place where there's water, mud, and thorn, he can remain afloat, he can remain upward, not touching, not coming into contact with these. So this is what is meant by sutra. And there's another thing which is happening is, at the time of death, he can voluntarily decide, from which part of the body the pranas will leave. Because ultimately it is the pranas which are responsible for life. And if you if you have read the sutra, if you have read the commentary on the sutra, the very first statement of the Vyasa, it says, what is life? Life has been defined. Life is the activities of the sense capacities, all the various kinds of capacities we have, which we call indriyas. Could be karmendriyas or it could be jnanendriyas. So functioning of these jnanendriyas and karmendriyas, and also the manas, that is what life is. Because when we see a live person, his senses are working, he is interacting with the external world with the help of the senses. So that is a kind of indication, that is a kind of characteristics. So samasta indriya karanavritti, and these karanas are instruments or the faculties or the karmendriyas, jnanendriyas. So the Vyas Bhashya begins with that. Now, talking about these 5 aspects of prana, as yoga students, we have to know about the pranas, because there is a possibility that we can bring about a certain amount of control over these pranas, certain aspect of it. Not absolute control, but some aspects of pranas can be controlled. And that is very advantageous. We don't have to really go to any reading or any proof for that. All of us have practiced yoga. And when we practice pranayam, we know what happens, how the body is affected, how the mind is affected. So that knowledge we already have. Now, you see, talking about this life force or the prana, the two which have been talked about, one is the Udana. Now, let us look at the 5 pranas which we have talked, which we discussed just now. Adya Prana, it functions in different way depending on the kind of functions it performs in the body. The name has been given. So where does the prana, Adya Prana stays, and what is the function of the Adya Prana? According to Sankhya and Yoga, Adya Prana, the primary seat. These pranas are all over the body. In every part of the body, 5 pranas are there, because as I told you that there's only one energy called prana. But depending on what kind of functions it is performing, the names have been given and they have been segregated. So this Adya Prana, first of all, it stays in the breathing apparatus. It stays in mouth, nose, heart, navel, and big toe, and it is mainly responsible for the respiration. So main prana is responsible for respiration, and it stays in the heart, throat, nose, causes breathing. And then what is the main function of this? The entire organism called body, it has to maintain contact with the external world. So our eyes are seeing outward, our ears are listening to the sounds, our tongue is tasting, our nose is smelling, the tactile senses gathering all the sensations in the form of touch. So all those organs in the body which are responsible for our connection with the external world, they all are maintained, they all are a product, and they are maintained by prana. So that is the function of prana. In Sanskrit, they say Bhahyodbhava bodh ka vidharan. So it is not only, responsible for our contact with the external world, but it is also responsible for upkeep and maintenance of all the organs which are responsible for connection with the external world. So whatever means we are using from our body to get connected to the outer world, like right now, we are attending this class, so we are using our eyes, we are using our ears. Now, and our mind is also connected through this to the external world. Whatever is happening outside, we are knowing it. All this is the function of prana. Prana is responsible for this external connection. But at the same time, we find that as we are sitting here, we might be interested in the talk, so we may forget about the body, but suddenly one may feel little discomfort in the leg, little pain in the body somewhere, little ache, and one may change the position. One may sit upright, or one may, just correct the position so that the pain subsides or you become more comfortable. Now, how do we know that? We know that because there is a part of prana which is also responsible for all the time monitoring the internal environment, that is within body, what is happening. So all the sensations which are arising in the entire body from periphery to the brain, all these are responsible for sending signals from the body to the brain. Now all these are controlled by Udana, the prana which we are going to just now discuss about. So Udana is responsible for all the sensations which are arising. So this Udana is opposed to the what is known in modern studies, modern biology and physiology. We know that the brain sends signal to the muscles, that is known as motor input. But there's the opposite. So these are known as efferent current and efferent current. These are efferent movement or efferent movement. So there is a particular movement taking place from brain to the peripheral area of the body to the extremities. But there are also currents and inputs which are coming from the peripheral area, from the skin, all over the body. The skin is there, the sensations are arising there, and they go towards brain. So when these senses from the peripheral area and skin, they are taken to brain through the function of the Udana. So Udana is responsible. And also we stand up. There's an upward kind of movement in our body, beginning from the toes onward right up to the brain. That is also the function of Udana. So Udana is responsible for upward movement of the body. It's like the fire always goes upward. So what is the function of Udana? Taking the body in upward direction, and all the sensations are also taken in the upward direction to the top of the head and in the brain area. So that is and all the organs which are responsible for the sensations arising in the body, and they are going, so the part of the nervous system which is responsible for this, that will be regulated and controlled by Udana Prana. And all the upward movement which are there, they will be conducted by this Udana Prana. And if we look at it, Shariropadan Dhatu Jat Bodha. So all the organs which are supporting this activity, they will be regulated and controlled and maintained by Udana Prana. So that is one function. And in Sutra, we also saw one thing, that Sutra says, by conquering the vital force called Udana, the chance of immersion in water or mud or entanglement in thorns is avoided. And the next thing is said, and exit from the body at will is assured. So apart from sending signals from all over the body to the brain, causing this upward movement, Udana is also responsible for exit of the prana from the body. So when a person dies, the process of death gets completed only when the Udana leaves the body. Whenever Udana will leave the body will be dead. So they say that the process of death is getting completed because of Udana. So that is another function which is given to the Udana. Generally, we are trying to understand this. Now, after that comes Samana. Samana is where it is situated. It is again, Samana is up mainly in the navel area, distributes nourishment to all parts of the body. And again, the place of Samana in body is heart, nabi, all the joints of the body, and whatever nourishes the body. So whatever we drink, whatever we eat, or the air we breathe, all the nourishment which body gets from these three sources, the Samana Prana will be responsible for taking that energy, converting that energy into suitable substances. So we saw when we were doing Sutra 29 related to Nabhi Chakre Kaya Vyuha Jnanam. That time we saw this ancient classification according to Ayurveda. There are Sapta Dhatus in the body. Body is made up of Sapta Dhatus, beginning with the subtlest to the grossest. And grossest is the skin, Tvacha. And then we go to mass. So this Samana Vayu is responsible for converting whatever we have eaten or whatever air is there into the nourishment, and every cell is receiving this nourishment through the help of Samana. So Samana will convert all the nourishments from the various sources into the organs of the body or the dhatus of the body in different proportions. So the most subtle part, which is majja or asthi, haddi, bones, the flesh, the blood, all these, and the snayus or the muscle fibers, all they are made by this Samana Vayu. So whatever food is eaten, that will be converted into the parts which nourish the body, which sustain the life. That is the function of Samana Vayu. And the next sutra which we are doing is, as I read, Samana Jaya Jwalanam. That is the sutra related to Samana, Sutra 40. By conquering the vital force called Samana, effulgence is acquired. समान प्राण पर जय होने से योगी के शरीर में अग्नि जैसी चमक उत्पन्न होती है. So when Samana Prana is mastered, then yogi's body becomes, like fire. It becomes so bright. And we understand why it becomes so bright, because as I told you, that all that is eaten, all the nourishment which body receives through various sources, it is converted into energy, and it is converted into various kinds of. So even the skin cells are formed because of the function of the Samana. And modern physiology, modern anatomy tells us that the less toxins are there in the body, the more shinier, the brighter skin is, the clearer the skin is. So, and health of the individual is also determined from the quality of the skin. So it is an indicative thing that when Samana is mastered, that means Samana is functioning very well in the body, and as a result, yogi may acquire, this great effulgence. His body starts shining. That means he becomes very healthy, and there's a proper digestion taking place. There's a proper assimilation taking place. There's a proper distribution taking place in the body. As a result, his body as if shines. So I remember one something I had read. There was this great scholar. His name was Pandit Ram Shankar Bhattacharya. He was a direct disciple of Swami Hariharanandaranya and Swami Dharmamegharanya. So his father was also a disciple of these two Swamis. I'm talking about this must be 70, 80 years back. So when he was young, since his father was disciple, his father knew Yoga Sutras, and they were scholars of Sanskrit. So he was teaching his son Sanskrit also, and he also introduced his son with this Yoga Sutras. So this Ram Shankar Bhattacharya came to know about Yoga Sutras at very early age. And because he was a Sanskrit scholar, he had many doubts, he had many clarifications. So for that, he used to go to visit Swami Hariharanandaranya and Swami Dharmamegharanya to get clarifications. So his first encounter with Swami Dharmamegharanya has been described by him. It is there. There's one book called Shanti Lipi, and it is not available in epistles, but in Shanti Lipi it is available. So he has written about his encounter, his memories at the Kapil Mutt in Madhupur. And at one place he mentions that when he met Swami Dharmamegharanya for the first time, he felt as if a golden bright statue was standing in front of him. So Swami Dharmamegaranya had a hefty body. He was tall, and he said, Ramshankar Bhattacharya says that his body was shining like gold, and that was the first time he had seen Swamiji. And later on, he says that perhaps he was working on some kind of yogic kriyas, so that is why his body became like that. But later on, many times he met Swamiji, but he did not see that kind of shining, which so he ascribes that perhaps Swamiji didn't wanted to have it like that, so he stopped doing this kind of demonstration, or he deliberately stopped it from being noticed. And why there is a substance in what he says is because this Ramshankar Bhattacharya is a great scholar. He was head of the Sanskrit department of Banaras Hindu Vishwavidyalaya, and he has a great command in all the philosophies of India. In fact, one along with one American author, he has written a book on Sankhya, the Encyclopedia of Philosophies. It is a book. So in that sixth volume is on Sankhya. It's a big volume, very thick volume. So this foreign author and Ramshankar Bhattacharya have written that. So foreign author had to take the help of Ramshankar Bhattacharya. Without him, he could not have really written anything about Sankhya, which was authentic and authoritative. So that kind of authority this Ramshankar Bhattacharya had. And he had also written, if you find some of the old magazines of Yoga Institute, you will come across some small essays, small articles written on various topics on yoga, which are written by Swami, which are written by this Pandit Ramshankar Bhattacharya. He was a great scholar, and he had inclination towards scholarly study of Sanskrit, and he wanted to do this intellectual kind of work. That is why he did not really remain at the Kapil Mutt. Otherwise, chances are that he would have been the present day head of the monastery, which is right now there. So now this person, he talks about Swami Dharmavegaranya. He said he was such a great sadhak that what we read in Sutra as a Samana Jaya Jwalanam, he saw the example of that. And this has been the case which has been mentioned by many students about their gurus, how they have got control over the body. A few days back, I was I have not yet completed. I am reading a book. It is an autobiography of a spiritual person who is quite popular in India right now also. So I was reading it, and he says that when he was young, he went to Himalayas, and he met his guru. About his guru also, he says the same thing. He says the same thing, that he had a very shiny kind of skin, and in sub-zero temperature in Himalayas, he was wearing only one piece of cloth, and some kind of shoes were there. Except that his entire body was naked, and that is how he used to remain. So he was not feeling any cold like the disciple was feeling. Now such kinds of things are there. Now in case of Udana also, we saw that person doesn't come into contact with the ground. Even cases of this kind have been recorded. For example would be a particular author, English author, who had visited Tibet, and he saw lamas there who were traveling in the mountains, but it appeared that their legs were not touching the ground. They were as if floating, they were as if flying. So that's why they were able to really walk at a very, very great speed. And this is what this spiritual person about whom I said, I'm reading his biography. So he also says that his guru was able to walk so fast in the mountains where oxygen level is very low. We are all the time feeling shortage of oxygen, and we go out of breath. But this man at such a great height also, he was able to walk so fast. Now all this is only indicative. We can only guess that these kind of feats are possible only if there is some kind of control. Like in case of Tibetans, Tibetan Lamas, a very famous thing is said that even in the snow-covered mountains, they sit, and if you cover their body with a wet, sheet, they are sitting for meditation, and if you put a wet sheet on their body, very soon that wet sheet will get dry because their bodies can produce that kind of heat. Now, all this is possible only when there is a certain amount of control over the functioning of the body. One of the example would be when founder of the Yoga Institute, Sri Yogendraji, he went to America. He had demonstrated one something to the scientists and doctors there in America. And as I understand, as I remember, he could show that he was able to raise the temperature of one finger of the hand. Rest of the hand was cold, but one finger, it went on gaining more and more temperature. It became hot. So such kind of demonstrations are mentioned. And again, all this will indicate that at some place, some kind of control over the pranas is possible, and that is being done by these yogis. That's why they are able to perform these kind of actions. So now we go to the fifth prana, that is Apana. The Apana lies in mainly in the throat, mainly in the throat. Then it is in the back, it is in the legs, and also it is in the excretory organs and the sides, but mainly it is connected with the excretion. So, like the Samana takes whatever is useful for the body and converts into the various useful energies, and various useful organs are maintained because of that. Same way, Apana is responsible for segregating all that which is not useful to the body. Whatever is not useful to the body, or whatever is potentially going to convert into some kind of toxicity, all that will be segregated by Apana and it will be thrown out of the body. That is the function of Apana. So Apana, primarily it will be lying in the excretory organs. So through urine, we are, throwing out the useless substances, through faces, and then also through the lungs. The toxins from the body are removed. The body is getting purified by, and the skin also. When we are sweating, a lot of toxicity is going out. So through skin also, we are excreting bad substance from the body, toxic substance the body. Through lungs also, we are doing it. And when we pass stool, we are doing that. When we pass urine, we are doing that. So all the functions of this excretion, all the functions where the bad substance, useless substance is removed from the body through various means by all the responsible organs, that is the function of the Apana Vayu. And this Apana is very important because Apana, like Udana has got upward movement, Apana has got downward movement in the body. So in a way, it is really opposite of that. And somewhere Apana and Prana, these are considered to be very important in yoga. Udana, as I told you, that the function of Udana is because of it causes the death, and it is responsible for sending the sensations from the body to brain. So it is very important to yogi. But when we talk about Prana and Apana, these two are very important from yogic point of view, that the definition of Hatha Yoga itself is that bringing together Prana and Apana is what is Hatha Yoga. Ha and Tha. Ha represents sun, Tha represents moon. Ha represents Prana, Tha represents Apana. So, what is Hatha Yoga? If you had to define Hatha Yoga, then sun and moon may come together. What does it mean? These are all, symbolic languages. And ultimately, what it is, Prana and Apana. Prana and Apana, they meet together at the navel area, at what is known as maybe Swadhisthana Chakra, or maybe Navi Chakra, Manipur Chakra, or Navi Chakra. And this area, which yoga calls Manipur Chakra, or another name for that could be Navi Chakra, because Patanjali has talked about chakras in different way. And the way we know chakras today, these are very recent, maybe last 500 years or so, these have become popular. These names have become popular. So we know them by Mooladhara, we know them by Swadhisthana, Manipur, Anahat, Vishuddha, and Agnya. But ancient names which Patanjali gives there, he has talked about Navi Chakra, he has talked about the Murdha Jyoti, he has talked about throat level, Kantakupe, Shutpasa, Nivritti. So now this prana and apana, they unite together at the energy center. So various kinds of means are there. This is a very vast topic. As I told you, if you want to talk about prana and control of the pranas, what happens? Various techniques are there. For example, the bandhas are there. What happens in bandhas? Mula bandha is there, Uddiyana bandha is there, Jalandhar bandha is there. So in these bandhas, pranas are regulated. Basic function of the system of mudras and bandhas in yoga is nothing but directing the pranas in a certain desired way. That is the role of all the bandhas and all the mudras. जितनी भी मुद्राएं हम करते हैं, जो हम लोग बोलते हैं योग मुद्रा, या और भी मुद्रा, हाथ की मुद्राएं करते हैं, चिन्ह मुद्रा बोलते हैं, भैरव मुद्रा बोलते हैं. All these mudras, what is the function of mudras? Why they are so important in yoga? Because they direct pranas in a certain way. So if you want to direct pranas in a certain organ, then through mudras we can very easily do it. So for example, we learn at the Yoga Institute pranayam number 2 and 3 and 4. Pranayam number 1 is very general. But when we learn pranayam number 2, 3 and 4, what we are doing? We are using the clavicular muscles, we are using the intercostal muscles, and we are using the diaphragm muscles. And we learn them by feeling. So we take a certain position of the hands to feel whether the pranas are going or the breath is going in that particular area. So if we have to take the breath to the clavicular area, we hold certain position. When we are doing intercostal, we are holding the rib cage and we are trying to focus on the rib cage. We try to expand the rib cage. So this way we are going by the feeling, but without even doing this, if we take a particular mudra, then we don't have to do anything. If we are holding that mudra, automatically pranas will go into the clavicular area. If we change the mudra, automatically it will go to the intercostal. And we change the mudra, it will automatically go to diaphragm. We change the mudra, it will cover all the three muscles together. So these mudras are very popular and they are practiced by many yoga schools. So these mudras, what is the role that they are directing? So some amount of control is being exercised here. So apana and prana, as I told you, because we are discussing about prana, I thought it is important for you all to know that this is how the connections are. And then Vyana is there. Vyana is all over the body. It is spread in body, mainly it is there in the legs also. So now all these pranas not only are responsible for the certain functioning of the body and upkeepment and maintenance of the body, they are also responsible for certain kind of personality traits. What kind of social tendencies we will have. They are responsible for even that. So yogis, if you have a particular kind of social trait, yogi will come to know which kind of prana is predominant in your personality. So it's a deep topic and various kinds of things are there. They are also connected to the, some other aspects of function of our personalities. So a lot of details are there. We will not go into that. Now we will go to the idea of this Udana Jaya. How does Jaya take place? Sanyama is one technique, but you will find, surprisingly, you will find that it is connected to Antarbodh, that is the internal sensation. A small change taking place in our muscles, a small impulse arising in our nervous system, in any part of the nervous system, immediately it is carried by Udana Prana to our brain, to our consciousness. Now, in normal life, we see people become very insensitive. They don't even breathe correctly. They don't have the sensitivity and awareness of the body. So things are happening mechanically. So when something goes wrong, they are not even able to understand that something is happening. Something is wrong. Body is sending signals, still they don't bother about it. But in case of yogi, he is very sensitive. So if you look at the entire scheme of yoga, asana is very important. What happens in asanas? If we just discuss about asana today, and I ask you, every one of you, कि आसन में क्या आसन करते हैं, तभी आप क्या करते हो? What happens when you are doing asanas? So you will find that if anybody who's performing asanas the way it is recommended by Patanjali, the way it is recommended properly to be done, then that person's body awareness becomes sharper and it becomes tremendous. Gradually, he may become so sensitive that even a small change in the body he is able to detect. So now what is happening indirectly? What is happening? He is gaining some amount of control over the Udana Prana. It has not gone to the level of Siddhi where one can just float, one can just go. But the fact that one is able to detect small changes in the body, it shows that some work is being done in Udana. And this happens in case of invariably every sadhaka. Anybody who's practicing yoga in a very systematic way, in a calm, not in the exercise way, not 108 Surya Namaskar in 1 hour and half an hour. That will not give this kind of knowledge. Surya Namaskars done at great speed, as is the modern trained people doing 108 Surya Namaskar in one go in the name of yoga. That is not the idea here. We have to understand that. This yoga we are talking about is very deliberate, conscious, and willful. Nothing automatic. Nothing automatic. Even when a finger is lifted, it is with awareness. When the hand goes up, it is with awareness. A small muscle moves, it is with awareness. So when asanas are done with that kind of awareness, then they give us some kind of understanding of the body and some kind of control over the body. That itself is a kind of control over the Udana, because Udana is responsible for telling us, Udana is responsible for all the communication body is trying to make through the brain, to the brain. So entire communication of the body with the mind, with the brain is done by Udana. So if this communication is becoming better and better, that means the Udana function is becoming better and better. So as I told you about asana, same way we know about pranayam. When we are doing pranayam, the awareness of the body is heightened, because prana is the second level of the existence. One of the Upanishad talks about the 5 sheds, 5 coverings. So sharir, pran, energy, annamay, pranamay, jnanamay, vijnanamay, anandamay. The 5 koshas. There's yoga of 5 koshas. So our personality is made up of 5 sheds. And the grosser and the most outer is the annamay, food related, which is maintained by the food we eat. And pranamay is maintained by the breath. Through the breath we are inhaling prana, through the breath we are taking prana inside the body. So that is the second and subtler shed. And then manomaya is there, then vijnanamaya is there, then anandamaya is there. There is another way of looking at yoga of 5 koshas. So this prana is the subtle area of the body, or second kosha. So pranamaya sharir, energy body. One is the stool body made up of the gross muscles, bones, and all the organs which are there in the gross form. But what makes these organ functions properly is the energy. That is the second level at which we function. So when we are doing pranayam, we are getting access to this second level, and we become more sensitive than what we can become in asanas. So pranayams give us much more better control and much better energy in terms of our understanding in terms of body. Gradually, as we are doing uh, asanas and practices of yoga with awareness, we acquire more knowledge about our own body. So much so that person can even come to know that beforehand he comes to know whether he's going to fall sick or not, or he's going to be healthy, or if in some kind of disease is going to occur, he will be warned, he will come to know well in advance. As we say that very jokingly, Dr. Jaydev used to say something. The people used to be in hurry. Some problem was there. They will go to doctor and they will ask him, doctor, I have this problem. I want to get rid of it. And or even in practice of yoga, they were in hurry. So they will say that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm not getting an improvement. So Dr. Jaydev often used to jokingly say, whatever you have got, you have worked very hard to get it. So if you have worked so hard to get the problem, then you will have to work little harder to remove that problem. So this is the reality. When something goes wrong with the body, it doesn't happen suddenly. It doesn't happen in a moment. We have worked very badly for it. We have worked very hard for it. हमको बुखार आता है when we get fever or when we even get common cold. For getting common cold also we have done something wrong and for long time. It doesn't happen that we sneeze and then common cold has occurred. For common cold to occur, there are changes taking place in the body. And when the changes are taking place, the symptoms are there. But our minds are not sensitive enough to really catch those signals. If we can catch those signals, immediately we can take a precaution and we can prevent the common cold also. We can prevent the fever also. But that sensitivity we don't have. In case of yogis, they were living in caves, they were living in forests, they were living in ashrams, there were no doctors available. They were entirely depending on their own sense of understanding of the body. So through the kriyas, Shatkarma is also another area which makes us sensitive about the body, which corrects the, some kind of disturbance in the body. They can be corrected through the kriyas. So kriyas have got therapeutic value, but kriyas also increase the sensitivity. I remember around 35 years back in Ghatkopar, I was taking yoga classes because I used to take yoga asanas. So there was a group of doctors whom I was teaching at Ghatkopar, and I made them do this Jalneti. As they did Jalneti, one of the doctor, he immediately, he shared. He said, I never had this kind of feeling which I am getting. It's a very soothing sensation I'm experiencing. And now you see, being a doctor, he had never experienced that kind of lightness, that kind of positivity. When we do Jalneti, we feel that the breathing has become very clear, and we are feeling a very sense of lightness, and a very pleasant feeling takes over. So now these kind of experiences are there in kriyas, and they make us more sensitive towards the body. They make us more aware of the body, and perhaps that is responsible for having some control over Udan. And perhaps that is why we saw that in Sutra 29, in Sutra 35, we discussed that the pranas leaving through the light, the sun, pranas leaving from the top of the head, or pranas leaving from the Bhrumadhya. So yogis can bring about that utkranti. That is the second part of the sutras. They become so aware and they have got such a good control that at the time of death, they can decide from where the udana will leave the body. Whether it will be through the eyebrow center or it will be through the top of the head. So whichever, and we had discussed this earlier, that when the pranas leave the body from the path of the sun or the light, then the person gets liberated. If from any other part, if the prana leaves the body, then he is transmigrating. From one body to another body, he keeps moving. So all those ideas are there. Difficult to really correlate. But Udana is connected to that also. So mastery of the Udana will give this capacity to a yogi to ensure that he's able to leave his body at the time of death according to his wish, from whichever area he wishes to. That is the second part of this. So these two, Samana Jaya, Janam, Udana Jaya, these are very important concepts, and these are different functions in the body. And in a way, I would say that all yoga processes are helping us in becoming aware of these pranas, these energies. And if some amount of control is exerted on them, then perhaps, like very simple example would be, we cannot stop prana completely, but we can regulate the prana. So in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, there's a very beautiful shlok. When I said we can exert control, and when we exert control, we can change the mood, we can change the state of the body, we can change the state of mind. So there is a beautiful shloka in Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Chale vate chalam chittam nischale nischalam bhave. Chale vate chalam chittam. When the pranas are moving in the body, when the pranas are in big supply, in large supply, our minds also keep on functioning. Chale vate chalam chittam. Nischale nischalam bhave. If you control the pranas, the mind also get control. This is Hatha Yoga. So they say that through prana we can control the mind. And we know that when we are doing pranayam, suppose if even simple pranayam, like when we are counting, when we are inhaling and maintaining a count with awareness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reverse. Even such a small act of concentration, it gives a certain amount of stability to the mind. Our concentration improves. So here, it's a very tall claim. Physiology, anatomy, great doctors in world, they have not told us anything about this. They don't tell us anything about this. You go to a doctor, a big doctor who knows everything about physiology, anatomy, and tell him my mind remains disturbed. I'm thinking a lot. I'm not able to stop my thoughts. He will not be able to give any solution to that. Although he knows that our brains that are active, our thoughts are going on because of the energy. If you go to a yoga teacher, he will say that, okay, regulate your breathing, your thinking will come down. Very simple thing. So a person who has got this knowledge, he can definitely, when he sees that his mind is functioning very fast, few rounds of pranayam, his mind can calm down. Surprising thing. Now, all these are the implications. These are the areas we can look into. These are the areas we can see how important they are. I recall long back. It has been our association with the institute is now almost 40 years. So institute had started some camps, and when the first camp of mentally disturbed people was started, I was a volunteer in that camp. It was the first camp at the Yoga Institute, and I was volunteering. And there was a group of people who, what do you mean by mentally disturbed? Means they have some issues with the mind. They have some issues so they are on maybe some kind of medicines. Now, such people came to attend that camp, and we taught them a simple technique of shunyak. I still remember. We also made them walk on the plank, and then we taught them some kriyas. And one of the important pranayam which we taught them was shunyak. After teaching shunyak, we made them do it 10, 12, 15 rounds. We made them do. After that, one lady, I still remember, she shared. She said that when I was doing this shunyak pranayam, my mind has as if stopped. As if my mind was not working. All my thoughts had stopped. Now you see such kind of experience, such kind of sharing. coming from a person who has got no control over the mind. Now, this is a very important tool. We have to understand that. So, with pranayam, with asanas, these kind of things are also possible. And if the wise teacher is there, experienced and wise teacher is there, he can really help us in solving so many problems which we are facing with the help of these techniques, because these techniques are directly working on the energies which are there in the body. Lots of connections are there. I just thought I'll share with you all these things. We may not be able to reach this level of Udana Jaya, floating may not be possible, but there are instances like Dr. Jaydev had talked about one person, Yogi Jadhav. He had come to institute and he had demonstrated levitation, rising from above the ground. He was lying down and then he was able to rise above. So commonly in the entire world, this is known as levitation. So levitation is again connected to Udana. I don't know how far people are able to demonstrate and whether they are really able to have mastery of Udana. But it is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. But possibility is there. So these examples which I gave, they just show that such things are possible. For us, they might be a little far away, but if we can really get some sense of control over our body, some functions we are able to understand, we are able to detect these energies and work on them to our advantage, that will be the great thing we can do.
One very famous yogi, he comes to Ramakrishna and tells Ramakrishna ki I can walk on water. So Ramakrishna bolta, even I can do that. So first the yogi shows he walks on the water from one shore to the other. And there's a big crowd wanting to see. Then it's a chance of Ramakrishna. So he calls the boatman and he says, I want to go to the other side. And the boatman takes him to the other side. So the yogi is saying, what are you doing? He's saying, I'm crossing the water. So that man is confused. So Ramakrishna asks him, how many years it took you to learn this mastery? He said, almost 20 years. He said, I gave 50 paise to this boatman and I could just cross it. So all that years that you spent, 20 years, is worth 50 paise. I mean to say, all these siddhis, people go astray, and the real yoga many times gets missed out, I feel, which we are very fortunate to be associated with Dr. Saab. I'm sure he must be having a lot of siddhis, but he never demonstrated, he never showed. And another thought just that came to my mind is, if we really are practicing yoga in the right way, then they are talking about the mud, which I associate with all the wrong things that are happening in society. The thorns may be the problems, the difficulties, the obstacles. And if one is really practicing yoga in the true sense, then one doesn't get much affected by these things. And I feel to walk on the earth peacefully is the biggest siddhi than walking on water.
Yeah, it has been clarified. Previous two sutras we saw. Sutra 37 says all the siddhis are obstacles. There is a very clear stand Patanjali has given. But he is discussing because in case some people want to move in that direction, want to experience certain things, then he can experience. But what are the dangers involved? That also he has clarified. But nevertheless, there are also certain things like you gave the example of Ramakrishna Paramans. Now, with all due respect to Ramakrishna Paramhans, then he was crossing the river. Suppose if the boat would have capsized, what would happen? So Siddhis have their role in spirituality, and having vairagya towards Siddhi, that is very important. But then they do happen and they have a role to play. That's why they find mention in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We saw that why they are mentioning Siddhis. If Siddhis are obstacles, what is the need? Because they are taken as a milestone. And today, when we talk about these two Siddhis of Samana Jaya Jalanam, if we work on Samana, who doesn't want a healthy life? If we are living life, we want a life where we are life worthy, our bodies are life worthy. So to make our life good and to make our body life worthy, we have to maintain a good body. That means good digestion. So working on a samana will not only give this brightness to the body, but it will also improve the digestive system of the person, digestive system of the organism. So this knowledge is useful in maintaining good health also. So that is the practical use of it. And if the need is there, and everybody wants to maintain today, look at the health scenario in the world, what is happening. If the people start practicing these kind of things regularly from childhood, there is the possibility of getting so sick, with all major diseases and all. They can manage their bodies well with the control of the pranas. If the samana is good, whatever they eat will be digested. They have to eat right things. So there are, these are things which we have to understand, and very objectively, what is the useful part of it, what is meant by it, that has to be taken. That is the reason founder brought yoga to household. 100 years back, he started Yoga Institute so that he can teach yoga to common people who do not have access to this kind of knowledge. So he can help them overcome certain problems. So as long as yoga, these techniques are helping us in solving our problems, and you rightly said that life is full of thorns, challenges are there. To be able to walk properly on earth, that itself is a big siddhi. To be able to, when we get up in the morning, we are awake and we are looking at the sun, we are looking at the trees, that itself is a big siddhi and good enough reason to be happy and joyful. We don't require anything else. But look at us, what has happened. Do we derive any pleasure from sunlight and trees and flowers? That is good enough to give us a lot of joy and happiness. But we want bigger things. We want complicated, artificial things. That is how life has become. So it is a siddhi to be able to enjoy a simple life. हम खाते हैं, simple thing we are eating, it is digested. That itself is a miracle. I don't know. Very few people are there. I think people are losing interest in sutras. It seems.